Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we are going to learn how to create tabs or tab bar view in Flutter, how we can create nested scroll views in Flutter, and also we are going to design custom search bar and list of brands or using a grid view of brands. So this tutorial is going to be very informative. So first of all, let's quickly have a look what we are going to create. So our application is running and you can see we have so far created the home screen. So this is the home screen that we created and we already learned each and everything. But above all, we also created the custom app bar, the custom search bar and scrolling categories with the products as well. But for today's tutorial, we're going to move to this store section to create a store screen. So this screen is divided in two parts. So first, today we are going to design the part before going to these categories. So we will design the brands with a view all button heading. Then we have a search bar and also an app bar with a cart counter at the top. And in the next tutorial, we are going to create these categories and add all the brands and products. So without wasting time, let's get started. We are creating Flutter e-commerce application and we are in section 3. In the previous two sections, we already covered the login part in section 2, and the first part was all the setup for this professional folder structure, themes, etc. So I suggest you to watch the previous videos. If you want to get the code, link is in the description, and also you can get the code from codingwitht.com. You can also watch the complete playlist. Link is in the description. So let's get started. Open Android Studio, we are inside our e-commerce project, and in the previous tutorial we learned how to create the popular products or the list of products using two things: the grid layout, the custom grid layout, and the product vertical card. Before going to start the next tutorial, I want to highlight some of the missing features of previous tutorial. First of all, we forgot to add the heading property. The heading or the section heading we already created. Simply hover over it, and inside we have already created this heading, and you just have to pass the popular products heading and also pass the on press, which is nullable. If you see that the on press event, which is view all button, and also the title button are not moving further apart, so go to the heading and you are missing this line, which is space between. Once added, it will be fixed. Okay, after this heading, let's go to the product card vertical design. Let me run the application, and down below you can see the first thing is that our text and the icon button is not at the bottom. So if you watch the previous tutorial, we have already talked about that we have to add spacer over here to push our content right at the bottom. So we are inside the details section of the padding. So when we are going to add spacer over here and when we are going to save this, you will see the error, which is all the text down below over here is gone. And in the run method, you can see we have render flex children, non-flex, or the incoming hide constraints are unbounded. This means that our vertical design is not bounded because we are going to add that in the same column. So we are not going to add the spacer in this column, which is the details column. So we only have to extract this row and also the spacer from here. Let's close this column, and also we have to go outside this padding, and in here we are going to paste the spacer at a constant and also the row. Now this time when we are going to save it, you can see our text has been pushed downwards and also our button and text is visible with a maximum space occupied from the top. And definitely to add some space on the left side of the pricing, we have to wrap it with a padding. Padding will be only from the left side and it's a small size, same as the padding of this details part. Save it, and you see the padding has been applied. Now, one more issue was when we're going to switch this to the dark mode, you will see that your design might not being switched to the dark mode properly. The image will still have a white background. So for that, you just have to go to this thumbnail image. In this rounded image, previously we have already defined the background color or a default background color in the constructor. So if you have a light background by default in the constructor, just remove it, add a question mark in the color to make it nullable, and that's it, your error will be gone. So that's it for the previous tutorial. Okay, so for today's tutorial, we have created a simple store.dart inside the shop of features. In the screens, I have created an empty class which is store.dart and which is a stateless class. You can name it anything. Now inside this class, the first thing we need to create is the app bar. We are going to use the T app bar we have already created. If you're new, you can watch the previous videos, and let me also show you this T app bar. So this is the app bar or the custom app bar we created. We added some extra paddings from the sides. So when you hover over this, you can see all the options over here. We're going to use the title and actions. So in the title, let's add the text widget, name it store, and as an action property, we're going to create icon button, but not a simple icon button again. As in the home, we have already created, when you go to the top, you can see we have already created cart counter icon button. So we will reuse this cart counter icon. On press is null, and that's it. Let's save it. Let's go to the store. We also have to head towards this navigation menu, and as we added home screen for the first one, so same we have to call our second screen, which is the store screen. Let me also refactor this store to store screen. So that's it. We have to do the hot restart. Let's go to login, click on the store, and you can see at the top, currently we have a dark menu or the dark background. So we have a store text written over here. And also we have our nice counter icon created when we're going to switch it to the light mode. And this time you can see still text is now in the black, and also our icon style is changed. Okay, now I want to make this store a little bigger. Add a style or the theme of the text as headline medium. Let's save it. And you can see store text has been increased. Now inside the scaffold, app bar is created. Next, as a body of this screen, we are not going to use a column view or single child view to make that scrollable. But this time, because we are going to use nested scroll view, why we need a nested scroll view? If you open the previous design and you see this is the first scroll effect that we need a vertical scroll, and then inside that we need horizontal scroll as well. So this is the horizontal scroll effect, and also in the same screen we need vertical scroll as well. So to achieve this, we need to design screen using nested scroll view. So let's add nested scroll view. Nested scroll view requires header sliver builder. So sliver are another type of widgets used by or used in Flutter. These are not the regular widgets, but these are specifically designed for sliver designs. So we have to use the sliver widget over here, sliver header widget, the sliver app bar, and as a body, when you hover over this, you can see it requires a simple widget. So for now, let's say we only have a container as a body. So let's talk about the sliver app bar, because we're going to design the header in the sliver app bar. We have the app bar at the top ready, already defined. One more mistake, we cannot, when you hover over this, you see the sliver app bar cannot be applied to list of widgets, which is a function basically build context and a boolean. So let's cut this sliver app bar first, because we need to create a function which has two attributes. First is the context, which we don't need, and second one is a boolean variable, which basically going to focus on inner box is scrollable. So I have named it as easy as it can be. So inside we have to create a function. So this function will return a list of widgets. So we have to create a list or to return a list, and inside this list we can create sliver app bar. So we have to return the sliver widgets. So that's why create a sliver app bar. Now inside the sliver app bar we can do the pinned, we can pin our silver app bar, so it can pin at the top, so it will not gonna move when the design is being moving. So if you remember, when we are moving our design, the pin will be true and our design is not going to move. And also we have a property which is floating. This floating is something, when you hover over this, it is saying whether the app bar should become visible as soon as the user scrolls towards the app bar. So when we are going to scroll towards the upper side or the top side, our app bar will be visible. So I'm gonna make it true as well. After that, I'm going to add a background color. Use the t helper functions dot is dark mode. If it is going to return true, we will use the t colors dot black, otherwise t colors dot white. So in the is dark mode, simply theme dot of context dot brightness is equal to dark, and when it is dark we are using the black color, which is defined down below over here, and white color also, which is down below defined over here in the constants t colors. Okay, after this we have a very important thing, which is the size of this app bar, how many pixels you can say, or what is the size that we want for our design which we want to put in the sliver app bar. So I have already tested height. You can play with this value as well. We need 440 as the expanded height. So when we are going to save this, we cannot see anything but a back arrow for this sliver app bar. So to remove this back arrow, same like the simple app bar, automatically imply leading, make it false, and boom, that arrow is gone. Okay, now to add anything, because we have defined the height and we also want to put anything or put some widget in it. For that, we have a property called flexible space. You see, it requires a widget. So as a widget, first thing we need to add padding around the sides for the same padding which we are already being given to all the screens. So aginsets.all t sizes dot default space is 24 in the t sizes class. So after this padding, as a child view, because we have to align items vertically, we cannot use column over here because column is again have unbounded height. So when we're going to use the column, we will get the unbounded height error. So to avoid that, we're going to use the list view. The reason to use the list view, because list view is also scrollable. So to avoid its scroll or to stop its scroll, we have to use never scrollable scroll physics. But the reason to use this list view is we have a property called shrink wrap. When we are going to make it true, it is going to occupy only the space which currently is the space of the children's of this list view. A constant. Now inside this list view children's, we first have to create the search bar. To create the search bar, first add, or let me add the search bar directly. Okay, in here in the search bar, first I have added a small space at the top, which is space between items, which is 16, and space between section is 32, which is the below space of this header container or the search container. So let me show you the search container as well. If you remember that in our previous tutorial, we have already designed this search bar which has some paddings of the sides. Then in the container, we have width or the complete width of the screen. Then we have padding. Then in the decoration, we have a color property. If a background color is applied, or the background color is true, it is all by default going to check if it's a dark mode, give the background color as dark, otherwise give the light color to the background. And if background color is false, it is going to make this background as transparent. Then we have a border radius border, and in the row we have icon which also has a gray color, darker gray if depends on again the dark mode or the light mode. Then in the text we can easily call the text with a body small theme. So in the main screen, the store.dart, once created this, let's save it, and you can see our search bar is visible. Border is also true, but we don't want to show the background color. So we have a property show background, which is by default true, make it false, and the background color is gone. We only have a border. Let's add the text. Let's save it. And you can see we have our search bar ready. So when you hover over this search container, you can see we don't have anything related to padding because we also have a padding at the top. And when you go to the search container, inside you can see we also have additional padding. So what we can do is to avoid making this a rigid container or the rigid search bar which cannot be changed, we can also get the padding at the top over here. As inserts geometry, name it padding. It can be nullable. This dot padding and default padding could be this one using a constant. As inserts dot symmetric, which is a default size. Okay, assign the padding over here, and we have to remove the nullable property because this padding must have a padding, so it cannot be nullable. Let's remove the question mark and also add padding as insets dot 0 to remove the padding. So you see our search bar is now taking complete space. After the search bar, we need to design the featured brands or the brands using a grid pattern. So first of all, let's design the brand itself, which will have its logo, brand, and the number of items in the brand. So the first thing we are going to use the T section heading. Title will be featured brands and show action button is true. By default, it's true. We don't need to create it. On press is going to be this one. So this section heading is the one we talked about earlier. So this is the section heading. When we're going to pass this show action button, by default it's true. So if it's true, it's going to show the action button, which is basically a text button. So now let's save it, and you see feature brands with a view all button property is created. Now inside this we need to create the brands. So before going to create a grid again, because grid we have already learned in the previous tutorial, but nothing to worry about. We will cover it as well. But for the custom brand, let's start designing the custom brands. So the first thing, we need to create a rounded border. So we will use the container property. We have already created T rounded container, and inside rounded container, when you hover over this, you can see we have padding, margin, show, border. By default is false. Radius is card, radius large. First of all, create a padding with a T sizes dot small, because we need some padding around this container, inside this container. Then we have a property which is show border. We want to make it true because we want to show the border of this container. By default, show border is false. After that, add a background color because it's a transparent background color. So we'll pass the transparent. When you hover over this, the default background color is tcolors.white. Now inside this container, we are going to use the row property because we first have an icon, then we have two text placed on top of each other. So first of all, we will use the row, and inside the row, let's create icon as a first property. Let's create a container. Let's give its width, height, and padding. Width and height is same, which is 56, and padding is t sizes dot small from all the sides. After this padding, let's add a box decoration to add color and also the border radius. For the color, we're going to first check if it is a light mode or the dark mode. So we will again check if it is a dark mode, we will use the background color as black, and otherwise background color will be white. Then for the border radius dot circular, 56 value will make the circle complete, but let's go a bit further as 100 border radius. Once decoration is completed, we will use the child of this container to add the image. As an image property, we should check if we are going to make it reusable circular image widget. We will check if it is a network image or the asset image, but for now, let's add the asset image. Let's say cloth icon. We are going to use our brand icons as well. And also, if image is not transparent and we want to create the color of the image, let's say we want to color this image. To do that, we will use the dark mode and light mode. If our background color, which is this one of the container background color, is black, we want to use the white color. And if at the top its background is white, we want to make our image color dark. Add a constant, icon is created. Let's save it. And you can see the border or the rounded border with some rounds, and also we have white circular icon image. We can also make this reusable by right clicking on this container, refactor, extract Flutter widget. This time we are going to make the circular image. Okay, in here you can see in the common widgets in the images, previously we only have a rounded image, but now we created T circular image. This is a stateless widget with the T circular image. Everything is same. We have just moved the width and height over here with the 56, so it can be reassigned. Also, we created a fit property which is box fit.cover, and also added a boolean variable of is network image, which is going to be check if it is a network image. We will use the network image provider, otherwise asset image provider. You should have to use as image provider with the asset image, otherwise you will get an error. And also the overlay color used over here is the overlay color of the image. Let's head back. I've added all the values. Let's import this library. So if the overlay color or the color of the image will based on that, if it is a dark mode, we'll use the light color, and if it's a light color, we will use the black color of the image. So let's save it, and you can see nothing changed. Our widget is created. Next, we have to add the width space between image and the text, and then we have to use the text property. Okay, if you're still watching, you have to be very careful over here because you might have smaller devices on the screen and you might facing the things start going outside the boundaries, and some type of errors are being appeared once we are going to add the text. So you have to be very careful. So first of all, let me add everything over here. Let's add column. Its children's are going to have two texts. Create a brand text. In the previous tutorial, we have already created go to product part vertical design, and in here we have to search for this one. We have a row with a title of our brand text. We have some space and then we created a verify icon of this image. We want to reuse this again, so it's better to not redo the code but to create a separate widget. So let's right click on this row, refactor, extract Flutter widget. Okay, I've created a separate brand title text over here and also brand title with verified icon. So it is going to keep the brand title text separate and also icon separate design, because in some cases later on in the design we only need this brand title text. We don't need anything like the verified icon. So that's why we use this brand title text. And also you see I've added flexible right on top of this text to make this text flexible inside this row. Otherwise, if we have smaller screens and we don't have a flexible on the brand title text, it is not going to wrap inside the boundary. So it is going to push itself outside the boundaries and our design will be collapsed. So make sure to use this flexible inside this row. And the brand title text, both are created in the text common widgets, and in the text I have created brand title text and brand title text with verified icon. So in the brand title text, you can see we have three different styles. Previously, we use the Boolean if it is a large or a medium. If it's large, we are going to, let's say, return the large size. If it is small, we are going to return the label medium style. But in this case, we have three designs we are going to use for our application. We have a small size, then we have a medium size, and we have a large size. So what I have done, when you go to the constants, in the utils, go to constants, create an enum function. Enum is basically not a function, and also enum is a method. So we use, most of the time we use enums for the comparison. So let's say we have a text size is enum, which is having three values, small, medium, and large. When I'm going to head over here, I have created a style, and first of all I'm going to check if brand text size, which is the type of the enum. So text size is enum, you see over here. So this is the variable type of enum. So when I'm going to say by default it is the small value, when I'm going to check over here brand text size is equal to small, I'm going to return this theme with the label theme of that specific color. If I'm going to check it is the size of medium, will return the body large. If it is a large size, then I'm going to return the title large. Else if none of the above, we are going to return the middle one, which is the body medium. So this use for the if else kind of thing. So when we are going to use this one, as over here in the brand title text, to not make this brand title text be verified as fixed, so I just pass these values in the constructor, so we'll get the value from there. So by default brand title text is again small. Now we can easily replace the text we created over here with a verified icon, t brand title with verified icon, and we only have to pass the title verified icon to true. Now let's copy it, head to the store dart, and inside as a first text we are going to use the brand title with verified icon. Let's save the code, and you can see we have a text with a verified icon, but currently text is small. So what we're going to use, brand text size. So we will call the enum, which is text size. Text sizes dot, we need large over here, so we're going to pass this one and it is going to return the large size of the text to us. And for the products, which is the second row, we are going to simply use 256 products as a text. Overflow will be ellipses and style is label medium. Let's save it. And you can see we have two text over there. I'm going to push the text to the left side. We have to wrap this column with a start of the cross axis, and now it's aligned. Now one more thing, that if as we are talking about that we need to use these brands on a smaller screens, then in that case we might have the error. So let's make that error appear first, then we are going to go for its solution. Okay, once the rounded container has been created, we can make this clickable. So wrap it with a widget gesture detector. On tab property is currently null. So once this widget is created, we have to wrap this widget and we have to use this widget in a grid layout. So for the grid layout, let's go to the layouts we created in the previous tutorial, and this is the grid layout. To create a GridView.builder, you simply have to create item count, shrink wrap, paddings, physics scrollable to null, never scrollable physics. Then in the grid delegate, we have some values that we have already defined. For the spacing, we have 16.0, both main axis and cross axis spacing. And then the size of main axis content, you see we pass 288 as the default size, which is the length or height of our product. But for this case, it's a bit different height. So let's go to store.dart, and in here let's call our grid layout. The grid layout, we have to pass the item counts. Again, we want to use 4 items. And in the item builder, we have to call the first value is the context, which we don't need. Second is the index. And then as a function, we have to return some widget. So let's return the widget we have just created, add semicolon at the end. So this is the gesture detector widget. Let's minimize this one. Now, one more thing, when I'm going to save this, you can see we have only two widgets covering all the space available for our fixed flexible app bar, which is over here, which is the sliver app bar. So its expanded height is 440. So we cannot utilize the space because currently grid layout by default has main axis extent for the single child height, which is 288. So we have to make it main axis extent as 80. Now let's save it. And this time you can see we have all the brands being appeared, but our text is not appeared in the center of each brand. And also we have one more issue that I was talking about. To first make it appear, then we will go for the solution. Let's say we have something, a large value written over here. When we're going to save this, so we have the problem right there. Let's say if you even have a smaller screen of your mobile device, this problem will be appeared. So to solve that problem, you see, we are already using the ellipses, but it's not working. So first of all, we want to push things towards the left side or make them adjustable. So first of all, we have the image. So wrap this image with a flexible widget. So this flexible widget is going to adjust the space accordingly. Let's save it. And you can see it's even disappeared because we have the fixed value of this column. Now column is taking all the space and still our products are not being aligned perfectly. So for that, we have to wrap this column with, you can use the expanded, you can use the flexible widget, but for the demonstration, let me use the expanded widget. Let's save it. And now you can see both image and the text are utilizing the space. Expanded is basically going to take the maximum space, but flexible widget on the other hand is not going to take the maximum space, but only take the space required for this image to be appeared. Now, this last issue is to keep the text in the center or align the text to the icon. So for that, inside this column, this is very important. We have to make the main axis size to minimum. So column can take only the minimum space, and you can see our text is now vertically aligned, and also it cannot exceed the limits. So that's it for today's video. I hope you learned something new. If you learned something new, please like the video. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified for all the upcoming changes. You can again download the code or get the code link from the description, or you can simply visit codingwitht.com. Once again, thank you for watching. Take care. Allah Hafiz.